We just received the arrest affidavit for the driver who's been charged after last night's deadly crash on Interstate 35. 5 people were killed in that 17-vehicle pileup. It happened near Parmer Lane.
The suspect, Solomon Wadikiel Araya, is accused of driving while intoxicated. He faces 5 counts of intoxication, manslaughter, and 2 counts of intoxication assault. We want to bring in KVUE senior reporter Tony Plahetsky to walk us through this new information. You have that affidavit in your hands, Tony. What does it say?
Yeah, we got it just a few minutes ago, but according to this affidavit, police believe that driver was under the influence of depressants at the time of this crash. The driver stated that he did not consume any alcohol and also, according to this affidavit, tested 0.0 on a breathalyzer exam. But at the scene of this crash, police say, according to this affidavit, that he still failed a field sobriety test, and then they actually took him to the hospital for further examination. So again, we know the driver at this point has been charged or is facing charges of intoxication manslaughter, 1 charge for each of those victims, as well as 2 counts of intoxication assault. But again, this affidavit making clear that police at the scene believed that he was under the influence of depressants. Also, apparently witnesses when he first arrived told authorities that he may have been trying to leave the scene at that time, and that authorities later found him inside of that 18-wheeler. Brian and Ashley.
Still really early in this investigation, Tony. This, of course, a huge part of that. What's next in this case?
Yeah, so you have, of course, the criminal investigation, and then you have the accident investigation. But authorities are still trying to learn everything they can about the moments that led up to that crash. So, for example, they are likely doing things like trying to collect video evidence from nearby businesses that may have caught what happened on camera. And in addition to that, I'm told that these 18-wheelers, these big rigs, actually have a lot of information on the rig themselves. So, for example, it may have locked in how fast he was going at the time, whether or not he applied his brakes at the time. And I think authorities also were trying to determine whether or not there were cameras on the rig itself that may have captured those devastating final moments leading into the crash.
You know, when you say a depressant, is there any other information that we can get from that, Tony, whether this was some sort of medication or whether this was some sort of drug use? Yeah,
that's a good question. And according to the affidavit, it refers to CNS depressants that they believe he was under. And actually, according to this affidavit, it says that police believe those drugs left him in a state, this is a direct quote, not capable of operating a vehicle safely. It is important to note that a person can be under the influence and intoxicated because of drugs, not necessarily alcohol. And clearly, that is what authorities in this situation are saying in this affidavit they believe happened.
A big step in the investigation. Senior reporter Tony Plahetsky with the very latest from the overnight crash in North Austin. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Let's now check in with KVUE's Jessica Cha. She's live at the scene there in North Austin with what things look like there today. Jessica?
Brian, we have been out here since about 10 this morning, where we saw crews cleaning up the last of the gnarled metal, glass and blood off of the southbound lanes of I-35, and those lanes did open back up at about 1 today. But earlier in the day, we were able to talk to a woman who says she has an employee who was involved in the crash and that he's okay, but ultimately he is shaken up. Now, we spoke with Cynthia Hirzuelo, who says her employee was driving around 11:30 last night on the southbound lane of I-35 near Parmer Lane when he was caught in the crash that involved 16 other vehicles. 17 people were involved and 5 of those people died. She says her employee helped to pull out other people out of their cars and saw others die. She says she's shaken up by what happened, but not surprised. She says this stretch of I-35 is usually extremely dangerous to drive on.
It's horrible. It's either there's always an accident, it's just people speeding down the freeway, it's people just being inconsiderate, it's construction zones, so people are just zooming by and not realizing stuff like this can happen.
And of those 5 people who died, officials say 1 was a child and 1 was an infant. And as we talk about the suspect in this crash today, court records out of Wilmer, Texas show that Wadikil Araya has also been accused of speeding there and was due to appear in court next week. Now, we did reach out to the attorney who was listed under that case, and we have not yet heard back from him. Live in North Austin, Jessica Cha, KVUE News.